Good morning, everybody. Happy Daily Creative Challenge to you, and also you. How's everyone doing? Good to see all of you in the chat before the show, during the show, after the show. If you aren't familiar, I'm Kathleen Martin. I'm a designer here at Adobe, and I have been teaching you Photoshop for the last week and a half. Yes, we are 3/4 of the way through our Daily Creative Challenge series this time around, and we are working on basics of Photoshop all the way up to more cool niche workflows. Today might be one of those. It's kind of a mixture of both, a beginner and a niche workflow, and I'm really excited to show you because it was really fun to work on. Before we move on to the workflow, let me just say hello to a few people. Clarissa, hello. Fairy, Jody, Caesar, Sam, Tatiana. Good to see all of you. Let me know how you're doing. How's your week going? Are you feeling successful with this creative challenge? Are you struggling a little bit? Is it a good stretching moment for yourself as a creative? I know I'm being stretched by teaching it and putting together all of these tutorials. It's a learning process every time for me as well. So you are not the only one learning and struggling. We'll struggle together. What's up, Sean? Thank you very much. Feeling very colorful. And maybe a little bit see-through, who knows, and armless. All right, so let's jump on into what the challenge is super quickly so that we can get on to the good stuff. Pop on over here to my screen. Daily Creative Challenge is a 2-week challenge. You can get all of the files that I am working on every single day, because this is a challenge every single day for 2 weeks, by going to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, and every day a new challenge is unlocked, and you can click this Get Started button to download the files that I'm using. You'll probably have noticed that every day there's been that can mockup and that texture JPEG in the Get Started files. You don't have to re-download those every day. It's just kind of for people who are coming in late. They can grab it whenever they need it. But if you click on Get Started today for custom brush, you'll notice that there's nothing really in there. That's because we're going to be using a brush that is already within Photoshop, customizing it and making it something pretty beautiful and strange. So really excited to show y'all. While you're working on your progress and your process, you can post your work on Discord to get feedback. Discord is a great place to share your work. We've got Kirsty here, Bubble Up Drink, posting their work. Very cool. Kim posting a challenge as well. This won't be added to my can collection, or maybe it could, but I thought I'd use some of this week's techniques to post on Instagram. Yes, I love that. Use the skills that you are learning to build your social media following, whatever you want. Very proud of you, Kim. That's great. Dorina, awesome job with yesterday's challenge. Anyways, if you want to join us on Discord, it's open 24/7. Just go to bit.ly/psdiscord, capital P, capital S, and that will take you to an invite link. It's a little bit overwhelming, so if you want to get kind of acquainted with Discord, click on this channel called How to Discord, and it will step you through just the basics, but it's basically just a giant chat room. Alrighty, I think we can jump into the challenge. This is what we're going to be making. So today's challenge is make a custom brush, and we are going to be making this cool kind of optical illusion double helix pattern with it, but we're going to be starting with this. How do we do this? Well, let me show you. And how do we go from this to this to this? If you follow me on Instagram, that probably sounded familiar. Ted says, I'm so bad at brushes. I love when there's a tutorial to teach me more about them. Awesome, Ted. Well, this is really simple. I'm just going to take you basically through how to customize a brush. We're going to end up with this multicolored option, but you could take it in any direction that you want to for this challenge and this design. I always say you don't have to do exactly what I do. The challenge is just to learn a new technique and implement it somehow. Oh no, Jason, you're lost like a caveman discovering fire. Are you watching on your phone right now? Okay. So we just have a regular file, excuse me, open right now, but you could work within the mockup. I'll show you how to do that. If you open up the can mockup, you're going to navigate to the design folder, pop that open, double click on this little thumbnail right here. It will be empty if you're just using the normal mockup that I provided for download. Double click right there and it will open this. We could just turn off all of this and work within here. And we will do that, but first I'm just gonna use a blank document to show you and test some brush stuff. The worms, space worms, I know, Carol. I was like, how can I make this feel less wormy? Let's turn it into DNA. How about that? Okay, so brushes in Photoshop. Activate the brush tool by tapping B. Super duper easy. Or over here in the toolbar, find the little brush icon. If you make a new layer and you just have the normal brush selected, it's gonna look pretty simple. It's just gonna use your foreground color, that's the one that's in the front in the top left right here, to fill in the brush. Now you have a bunch of brush options here in the control bar up here at the top. You can change the opacity. Maybe I want it to be 100%. Very filled in. We could decrease the flow so we can build it up a little bit easier. And we can also, just delete everything, turn on and off the smoothing. So this is going to be helpful for us today. But if you don't use smoothing, and let's turn up my flow, your lines will feel pretty hand-drawn and organic. If you turn on your smoothing, you can choose anywhere between 0 and 100, but all the way up to 100, you get really smooth, almost like vector-like strokes. Even using a mouse pad, which I'm using, you don't have to have a stylus to have smooth lines with your brush tool. You just have to turn up your smoothing sometimes. If you've ever used a plugin called like Lazy Nezumi, that's in Photoshop, that did the same thing, and then we added it to Photoshop itself. A little bit of brush smoothing. Okie dokie. So let's talk about how we can customize our brushes. Making that new layer again with my brush tool selected. I'm gonna open up my brush options in a window. So go up to Window, and you have two brush panels you can open, Brush Settings and Brushes. We're gonna be talking about brush settings because we're just gonna be taking one of the default brushes and customizing it, and you'll notice that it opened up a new panel on my workspace. That's perfect. I actually moved it over to the left so I could have kind of stuff on the left and right, and we can talk about it. But you can also open up your brushes. So you'll see that I have a bunch of brushes in here. When you open up Photoshop, you will have these general brushes, dry media, wet media, and special effects already loaded in here. But if you are a CC subscriber, which you probably are if you're using the most updated version of Photoshop, you can also get this Keith Haring pack, the Mega Pack from Kyle Webster, Kyle Builder brush, all kinds of really cool special effects brushes. Very nice. These work even better if you're using a tablet. Just by clicking on this hamburger icon, which is the 3 lines, horizontal, click Get More Brushes, and that will take you to an Adobe website where you can sync and download literally thousands of brushes that were made by the brush wizard himself, Kyle T. Webster. What's up, Mako? Good to see you. And Nourish, hello. Okie doke. Let's close these up. And yes, I have had a crazy brush panel before with thousands and thousands and thousands of brushes. I reset my Photoshop a lot because I'm always testing like what the default behavior is, and I delete my brushes a lot. So don't let this fool you. I am also a brush maniac. All right, let's go back to brush settings and let's make sure that we have the perfectly round default of the defaultiest brushes selected. I'm gonna click this brush thumbnail at the top, go to General Brushes and choose Hard Round. Okay, now if I just paint with this in my canvas, it's just a round brush. That's all it is. Let's make it a multicolored brush. So in our brush settings, we can change the color dynamics of our brush. Just go ahead and click this color dynamics option and it will automatically turn on your color dynamics, which is great. So let's go through a couple of these different options to get this multicolored effect. What's up, Annika? Good to see ya. Nick, hello. Nick says, I make a new custom brush every day. That's amazing. Please start releasing them with your projects. That is great. Alrighty. So with color dynamics selected, we have a couple different options. We're gonna wanna make sure that apply per tip is turned on. This is basically gonna make sure that every little instance of our brush hitting the canvas is going to jitter and be affected by the different color variations. If we have this turned off, then it's just gonna be a mixture of our two foreground and background colors, if we have apply per tip turned on, it's gonna look like this. So we're already kind of close to what we want. Command Z to undo. So this first slider here, foreground and background jitter, basically, if I have it all the way to the left, it's going to lean more towards my foreground color. I'll show you an example. But let me turn these all down to 0 so we can really see what I'm talking about. Okay. So you'll see that, yep, it is leaning way towards my foreground color, which is just this indigo blue. Undo that. If I go all the way to the right, it's gonna lean more towards my pink. Make sense? If I go in the middle, it's going to evenly kind of disperse between the two colors. Nice. Okay, so what does hue jitter do? Basically, if we turn it up to say 50, it's going to introduce some randomness in our color selection. So we're seeing some greens being added in, some blues being added in. Let's turn it all the way to the right and we should get like a full rainbow of colors. Yep. So you'll notice that these colors have a lot of gray in them. So let's turn up our saturation jitter as well, see what kind of colors we can get. So we're gonna have some more saturated colors, but also still some gray ones because it's not turned all the way up. And let's turn up our brightness as well. And this is gonna allow us to have a little more contrast in our brush. So brightness just means the lightness or the darkness, the white or the black introduced. So that's the basis of contrast, how light something is, how dark something is, how close to white something is, how close to black something is. So this should add a lot more variation into our brush. Nice. And finally, purity. So purity is going to basically tell us how much gray is allowed to be in the mixture of our brush. If we turn purity all the way up, there's going to be no kind of in-between gray hues. If we turn it all the way down, it's going to be all gray hues, so all black and white. But if we turn it up just a little bit, you'll see that between my colors, there's some more grayish options. This is more obvious when you're using the fade control. So it's gonna fade between the two colors. Let's turn hue jitter down to 0. So you'll see that there's a lot of gray right here in between the purple and the pink. But if I turn it all the way up, it's super saturated and super fun. Love it. What's your spacing set out right now, Kathleen? It is very close, and we will talk about that in a moment so that we can get some more differentiation between our dots. Command Z to undo. I'm gonna turn fade off because I wanna make sure that it is totally random, the colors that we are selecting. There we go. Now let's go to our brush tip shape. It's the very top option. And down here at the bottom, what Sean was mentioning, we can increase our spacing so that we have more delineated dots. We could even make like a true, very hungry caterpillar kind of shape going on, maybe some string lights. We could space them out completely. So it's more like polka dots, or we could go somewhere kind of in between. Nice, I'm gonna make sure my flow's turned up all the way too. That would help, huh? Ooh, we're getting somewhere. No spoilers, Sean. He knew where I was going. So let's go back to color dynamics and play with this a little bit because I want to have a dragon fruity colored brush. So it's going to be kind of pinky, maybe going to a little bit of purple, maybe some green introduced in there, but let's focus on the pink warm tones first. So let's change my foreground color. It's maybe like a really bright raspberry color, dragon fruit color, perhaps. Yeah, the preview is awesome. And then maybe this one will be a little bit more towards purple. Let's see how this looks. So you'll notice that there's a lot of variation in my colors because I have hue jitter turned up quite a bit. So we want to keep things towards the left so it's just staying between pink and purple. Looking good. Maybe a little more jitter. Jitter is just like a not machine learning, but almost like an algorithm that chooses random hues. So the higher jitter you go, the more random the hues are going to be. You name that brush a crazy brush. It is a crazy brush for sure. Maybe a little more hue jitter, maybe a little more brightness, maybe more brightness. Okay, I feel good about this. It is a little dragon fruity, right? So I am digging this, and also notice that I have my smoothing option turned on. If I turn it off, then the smoothing gets grayed out up here at the top. I'm gonna make sure it's turned on because we're gonna want some smooth lines going through space that we can then smooth out even more to become our double helix. Okay, you'll notice that we're not gonna talk about a bunch of these different options over here, but please feel free to. You could make a confetti brush, you can make a stamp brush, you can make all kinds of things, and it can all be found within here. So I'd highly recommend that you play with these, explore a little bit, but we are gonna move on for now. Okie doke. Let's move back here and work on our double helix. So remember, this is the vibe we're going for. You can see kind of how I got here now, right? You can see that we have all of these different colors, different worms, but I employed some tricks to smooth them out a little bit. And I'll show you how I did it. So I'm gonna make a new layer. Let's just do a test to see how this is looking. Good. I'm gonna use my right bracket key to increase my size. Very nice. I'm gonna turn up my smoothness all the way, and I might even turn down my spacing just a bit. All right, I dig it. So let's just draw. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, Command minus. A nice snake going through space. Very cool. I'm not holding down anything. My smoothness is turned all the way up, and that's how I got this nice arc. Little known fact, you can make straight lines with brushes really easily without using a ruler or anything by just clicking, holding shift, and clicking again. And you can draw straight lines between points. You can do some sort of like optical illusion going on here. Whoa, cool. Undoing all of them because that was a lot of clicking. And you can see that I did something kind of similar in a previous version. I wanted to kind of make it look like you were going through a tunnel, but we didn't land there. We landed on double helix. So let's go back to our snake. This is your DNA after you eat too much candy. Same. My Wonka blood. Okay, so we have our snake. Very nice. Now how do we smooth it out a little bit? Well, we talked about the curvature tool a couple challenges ago, and this is a great example of how we can make a really smooth selection around here without finicking with it too much. So let's go over to our curvature tool. You can just tap P or long press on here and choose it, curvature tool. We are gonna just select around the edge of our worm. So I'm gonna click outside of the canvas to start outside of it, and I'm basically gonna click every time that the angle really changes. So down here, you'll notice that, uh-oh, that's not looking so good. We want it to be within the lines, but don't worry, when I click out here, it will move to be within the lines. Now, we want to then come down here and move on. But if I continue to just click, it's gonna keep rounding every single point that I lay down. So double click, and that will make a straight point for you, or a point that has no handles pulled out. Here we go. And click to finish. Now you'll notice down here that this doesn't look perfect. Again, we want our path to be within our worm, but never fear. With your curvature tool still selected, so you're still seeing this path, hold the Command key, and you'll see that a little, let's zoom in a little, I'm holding Command, a little direct selection icon cursor appears. You might recognize this if you've used Illustrator a lot. This allows you to grab this single point, whoops, click, and move it where you need to move it. Okay, looks good. So what we want to do is make this path a selection. That's fine. We're going to go to select inverse, so we're selecting everything but our worm, and I'm just going to hit delete. And we have a smooth kind of tunnel. How cool is that? You can just go wild with this, make as many as you want. I did miss this little point over here. So let's reselect that. And there we go. We are going to move this in, maybe move this over, move this over. Okay, selection, inverse, and I'm gonna actually use my eraser tool to be a little more precise here. And if I miss a little section here, that's fine. I'm just gonna turn my smoothness up to 100 with my eraser tool still selected. I just tapped E to select my eraser tool. And we'll smooth this out a bit. You can hold Shift to make straight lines, if that's easier. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so we have learned how to make a multicolored brush. We've learned how to smooth it out with the curvature tool and the pen, not the pen tool, but the selections. So let's turn our double helix back on, and I'll give you a little bit of detail about how I achieved these shadows. So you'll probably realize now that I just made 2 of my worms. I erased a section of this second one to make it look like it was going behind it. And then I did the same thing with all of these strokes. I just clicked, held Shift, clicked again to make the straight line, and there you go. Now for the shadows, let me open up this group. All I did was make a new layer, choose a really soft brush in a dark hue. So I chose like a deep purple, turn the opacity down quite a bit, and I painted in shadows. Maybe turn opacity up just a little bit more. And then I changed my blend mode to multiply, and there you go, you get a shadow. Don't forget to turn it into a clipping mask so that your shadow is clipped to the correct worm. We've covered all of these things in previous challenges, so hopefully your skills are kind of layering on top of each other. Let's delete that, turn that on. There we go. And we can apply this to our mock-up by just turning back on our detail layers. Hit save because we are in a smart object. And let's see how it looks in our final mock-up. What is this erase? I know, Carol, I actually barely ever use erase. I usually just select the thing and delete it. Destructive, I know. We could use a layer mask as well. But for things that are not so important, that's all right. The snake from Beetlejuice. Yes, Carol, that's kind of what I was thinking of when I was making this. Beetlejuice in general. Cool, so this is looking great. We've matched the colors from our text and our shape to our helix to get the colors kind of mishmashed in there. We could even go the extra mile and grab like a space texture. Let's see, I have a couple in my library. You're welcome to use whatever images that you like. I'm gonna increase the size of this. Drag it below everything. This looks like it lost its clipping mask. There we go. Maybe I'll change the blend mode so that we get a hint of it still. Ooh, hey, that's cool, right? Command save, let's see how it looks. I think that's a job well done, everybody. So let me get this exported. Let's put it onto Discord, see what y'all think. I'm just gonna take a quick screenshot. If you're on a Mac, you can do Shift Command 4 and drag out a screenshot. Go back to Discord, grab my screenshot, drop it on my text box, and let's say space snakes. Not much to say here. I like the color palette. Excited to see what y'all make. Upload. So we'll see what y'all think. I'm excited to see what you guys make. Like I just said, you do not have to do this double helix pattern that I just showed. You could do whatever you want. You could do something that's more like an optical illusion, like the tunnel one that I showed you. Turn that off. I even made one that kind of looks like corn on the cob. Maybe you want like a roasted corn seltzer. I love roasted corn tea. It kind of sounds good, not gonna lie. So just explore, have fun, see what you can make, and maybe you'll become a brush making master. after this. But don't forget to upload onto Discord so we can give you some feedback, and then we'll upload onto Behance. We'll probably upload everything on the Behance on the last day, challenge number 9, just so we can get it all up there and out into the wild at once. So I'm gonna pop out of here. I will be back tomorrow morning with another challenge. We worked with the curvature tool today. Maybe we'll work with the pen tool tomorrow. Ooh, curvature tool is scary big brother. So make sure you come back. It'll be easy, it'll be fun, and I can't wait to see what you make as always. So stick around for more Adobe Live coming up right after this. Have a great day, and I will see ya when I see ya. Bye everybody.